I'll tell you a story. I remember this forever. Well, they'll usually make fun of us because we're so polite. The band Disturbed and the band Finch had some words in press. This band Finch is setting up to play next, and just as they start rotating the thing, the guys from Disturbed rush them.
Everybody, welcome to this week's edition of the Gracie Note. I am here with
Rick Jackett, guitar player for Finger 11.
You guys have released this year 5 Crooked Lines,
yes,
which is your 7th album. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Ask you about getting to play the new material on the road because you're also touring right now.
Yeah, when we first went on the road with this, first of all, the song "Save Your Breath." That's the electric moment.
Yeah.
It's the moment where I think it's just on the record. I think it's one of the cooler songs, but live, it's that one where it sort of really connects the old and the new together.
Cool.
You know what I mean? And we get a lot of people going like, oh, "Is that one of your old ones? Is that one of your new ones?" It's sort of like that. It doesn't matter. It gets to that point where it doesn't matter. It's just good, and people are enjoying it. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Yeah. The response has been really awesome. To be honest, it's over. We thought maybe we were being a little self-indulgent by putting so much of it in the set because we're so excited about it.
Yeah.
But it seems to be what people are excited to hear, so it's working. So.
Very cool. You were on tour actually. You played November 12th, and then the Paris attacks happened on the 13th. So, hearing that, when you guys learned about that, how did you feel, kind of as musicians?
Horrible, like sick, I mean, aside from the obvious horror of the situation, but
the fact that
the fact that concerts were attacked, unfortunately, it's one of those world events that you will never come back from because it was one thing when the angry people were attacking the angry people, but when all of a sudden it's like people just going out to be human beings and be cultural and be smart and be kind and funny, and they're attacked. And those, I mean, it's a horrible, it's a scary thought, but it's also, it's like everybody says, it's the act of a couple of cowards, and it doesn't get to dictate how things go on. If anything, we should have more rock concerts and more art. We should make more of it, and that's how I feel. But I mean, as a person, I mean, this is our home. Our church, and this is where we go every day to worship what we love, and for it to be attacked, it's very personal.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you talk about kind of dealing with the new outside forces, like changing in band members and growing through different record companies and that kind of thing, and how those kind of impacted the pressure kind of around making the album? Yeah,
I mean, definitely with the member change first and foremost, it definitely had a huge impact.
Sure,
because the band had gotten to a point where it felt like the writing process was broken and just not working properly, and it was taking too long to be creative. And if anybody who's creative knows that it shouldn't take a long time. It should be fast and be instantaneous. And it got to this place where it just got too cumbersome, and there was a problem. So when we parted ways with our drummer, it was unbelievable to how much the lines of communication, personally and creatively, just started flowing. It was insane. So we probably wrote more songs in the following 3 months than we did in the previous year of our lives. So it was just like it just came out. Yeah, it was because really what happened was, I think it broke it down to it came back down to the original 4 members that were there, and it just started working the way it did in the beginning again. You know what I mean? So that was a huge impact. And then the label thing was just almost like we put our heads down, we make the record, we pop our heads up, and we're like, who's putting this out? Like, it's sort of, and then we'll make it work. But we've been through so many label changes and so many personnel changes over our entire career that it's really, we've learned a long time ago that ultimately we got to make ourselves happy and do this thing, and then everybody come on board if
Like, for example, in the song "Not Gonna Be Afraid," there's and I want to say the lyric because it's awesome. Crushing the overwhelming doubt, scream over the loudest shout. You know, because it's not like you're just moving forward of the transition, everything. You're going with it with, you know, guns blazing and totally full speed ahead. You're not afraid of it. You're embracing it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that really is a feeling within the band that I could honestly say maybe wasn't even here 5 years ago.
Oh,
like
wow.
you know, like it got. I think all the touring and success and the success of certain songs thrusting the band into certain situations and genres that we don't feel comfortable in, or we don't we never aspired to get to. Mm-hmm. It took its toll on all of us and just sort of confused maybe the vision of the band and the situation.
Sure. Yeah.
You know? So this one we knew we had to go home, hit the reset button, recharge our souls, recharge our creativity, and when we came out with this record and we got back on the right path, it didn't feel like that, and it does feel like that. There's just like no stopping us in the sense of like it's the same attitude as we had at the beginning, where it's like if we go through a concert and one person shows up or 100,000 show up, we just don't care. We just want to we just still want to stage, and we just want to play our music as loud as possible and put it in people's faces. You know?
You play every gig as if it's your last.
We actually play every note as if it's our last. That's really the truth.
That's even that's even more hardcore. At what point, what did that culmination of feelings and everything come to the climax of, fuck it, we're doing it our way, no fear?
But I gotta say, it was when we went and we met Dave Cobb in Nashville, the producer, Dave.
Yeah.
He had the same philosophy, and he was on the same journey, and he was doing it in the country genre with a lot of great artists like Sturgill Simpson and Chris Stapleton, Jason Isbell, and he was just ignoring what the country trend was, and he was just pushing through it with these artists and just being real and honest.
Yeah.
And that was what we were trying to do in our genre, because right now our genre is a little stagnant and it feels a little dishonest and disjointed. So I think there was this feeling of like, we don't want to make a typical record. We want to make an atypical record, and he was the right guy because that was his philosophy on music. He had no desire to like bend it so it fit in anywhere or push it a bit back towards the middle. If anything, he pushed it further away from the middle, and that's what we were looking for. And that's where it felt like we were making the right call, you know, making the right decision.
You know, there was no boundaries or anything. You felt like you could express yourselves openly.
Absolutely, it was like 100% trust between the whole group of us, and it just started that way and it continued that way the whole time. And there wasn't disagreements, but we all knew that everybody was fighting the good fight and for the right reasons.
Title track has beautiful imagery that you guys have been talking about with the 5 crooked lines and the star.
Full disclaimer: Scott is the lyricist.
Yes.
But we've talked to Scott about it, and what he was talking about in that song is just the idea of like these 5 crooked lines, these sort of nothingness come together to make this thing, which I think is in a way a metaphor for the band, like the sum's greater than its parts, you know, like we as people are just these people, but together we make Finger 11, and that's something that we can't do on our own, you know. So, but he's talking about how it comes together to create a star which rises to become like the most glorious thing, but as soon as it burns out, it crashes, and it basically, in his imagery, it comes out and it creates a world of flames that it crashed into, a total mess, but eventually that thing will come around again to create a star and rise again. So it's sort of that. Yeah, and I think that's maybe the feeling of the band or any career that has its peaks and its valleys and its ups and its downs, but it's not like it's sometimes when it crashes, it's not over. That's sort of the beginning of it rising again, you know.
Well, so you kind of see it as like a rebirth.
Exactly.
And like reinventing yourself on each album.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we've always stayed true to, that sort of vision.
The jam at the end of that song is really cool.
Yeah.
It must be so fun to get to do on stage every night.
You know, it is. It's because it gets really lawless and it just sort of gets like chaotic, and that sort of goes.
Was it improv in the studio? Like, how did that come to be?
It was a combination of us and Dave, just him forcing us to keep things like that was awesome. And we're like, no, that was a mistake. He's like, no, that was awesome. Listen to what's happening. And then just a lot of fun.
Blackout song has to be my favorite on the album, and especially for the end culmination of lyrics where you're just standing together singing "fuck everything," you know, like thank you totally for putting that into a song.
It was one of the first songs we wrote during the writing process for this record. Live Forever. We went to Chicago, did a version with it, but we changed the lyrics to "Forget You" because of this sort of outside philosophy of like it'll work better at radio, blah blah blah. But we'd fallen victim to that before in our past, where it's like, yeah, you know what, we listened to you and you never even put the song as a single. You know, it was like, what was that about? Like we trusted you. It wasn't until we got down to Nashville and we sort of played it for Dave, and we sort of said like, hey, there's this option and this option. It's like, yeah, the "Forget You" is not an option. The song has to say "fuck everything," and we agree with that because that's the sentiment of the song. It's the entire like to come that far in the songwriting process and have this sentiment, but cop out on the word. You know what I mean? It's like, well, then that's what the song's about. It's like, fuck everything. Like, so who cares? Just put it in there.
Exactly.
You know? So, and now like it's become one of those moments live where you just get the whole room full of people yelling it, and then you can see the elation on their faces and this feeling, this release, you know, of like you don't get to yell that very often.
No, and just having a bunch of, because everybody has the common interest at the concert of Finger 11. So they're having that moment together in concert.
Yeah, and I think that it sort of sums up that feeling that you go to rock concerts for. Like you just want to forget about everything else in the world and you just want to say, fuck it, you know, just woo, have fun. And so that moment is a special moment.
Totally. For sure. Finger 11 has been around for so long, one of those great Canadian bands along with, you know, Great Big Sea, Rush, Bare Naked Ladies, Our Lady Peace. And at this time in your career, is there anything about being distinctively Canadian band that is really, in particular, really special to you guys? Like,
well, they'll usually make fun of us because we're so polite. They're like, oh, you must be Canadian, you're not from America. So it's like this underhand, like they're sort of digging on themselves. But no, like the truth is we get treated, a lot of times people don't know where we're from. You know? It's not something that, like, we don't have a song called like Canada is the best song.
No,
right? You know what I mean? So, but we're very proud of it. And when we come home, we get treated like incredible. You know what I mean? Because the history for the band is so much more rich here than it is anywhere else in the world. But the funniest thing is like the best thing is when you're like on the road and you run into another band that's Canadian. And
that's
then it's
true.
like
Instant.
A little club starts, you know, and then it's weird because you're somewhere else and everybody's sort of like, well, what's going on? Oh, we're all Canadian. Did you know each other before you came here? No, but we're Canadian, so I know they're good. I know they're good guys. Like, you know, I'll tell you a story. I remember this forever. We were at this like metal fest in I think it was in Pittsburgh. And the band Disturbed and the band Finch had some words in press, and this is amazing. We're literally on a stage that I've only played 2 times in my life where the stage rotates and the band sets up and they turn on. This band Finch is setting up to play next, and just as they start rotating the thing, the guys from Disturbed rush them. And so as it turns to the crowd, they're literally punching each other. Like, there's no music being played, they're just punching each other. Security rips them apart, and Finch does their set, and as they're doing their set, Disturbed sort of like angry. And to be fair, they had a right to be angry. The guy from Finch said something about like he wish he could put a bullet in his head or something. It was like a really obnoxious thing the guy said. So he's upset. He's backstage. He's trying to rile up the, you know, like a high school league. You know, like it's like and. Us and 3 Days Grace are sort of just standing over here on the hill, and he comes over and he's like, because we're friends with, we know him, but he's like, he worded it some wicked metal way, right? He was like, you guys metal, you pussies. And we're like, dude, we're Canadian, man. We're gonna stand right here and watch you guys fight over there. Like, it was such a good metaphor for the way, like, it's just like, I'm not getting in anybody's fight, especially if it's not my fight. You know what I mean? It's like, so we didn't get involved, but it was really entertaining to watch. They chased him all the way to their bus. There was never really any big altercation.
What year was this in? Like
must have been like 2000, around 2004 or 2003 kind of thing. So
oh my gosh,
it was pretty exciting. But that's the most Canadian thing that we've ever had. Like, it was awesome because it was like we all knew, like, no, we're not getting it. We're Canadians. We're gonna sit here and drink our beer. Probably pull up a lawn chair, to be honest with you.
What is, so this tour, the Toronto stop, November 20th, is the last for a little bit, or are you doing another leg? What's next for?
I think this is the last for this run. This was the first run for this record, and we hadn't done a real Canadian tour in a long time.
Yeah.
So it was just awesome to go all the way out west and just, you know, get it as far as the island and just see everybody out there and then come back. But it ends here, Christmas time, all that good stuff happens, and then I think in the new year the plan is just to attack again.
in 2016 possible tour plans?
Yeah,
Possible.
100%.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining me and talking to me on this week's episode of the Gracie Note. You can find everything Finger 11 at www.finger11.com, and you can find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, and of course, YouTube. Read more about them in this week's article in the description below. Again, thanks so much for being here. So much awesome. And everybody, be graceful. Bye, guys.